Hello everybody, welcome to episode 7 of Shelf Review, where today we'll be going over Cormac McCarthy's The Orchard Keeper. Now today, this will be more of a review style thing rather than a discussion, because honestly the book was a little bit scatterbrained. Okay, I gotta give him credit. This was Cormac McCarthy's first attempt at a novel. So it's obviously not going to be his best work. It's not going to be up there with like your No Country for Old Men, your Blood Meridians, your all the Pre-Horses, stuff like that. But yeah, honestly, okay. I've read The Orchard Keeper, and I believe the next novel he published was Outer Dark, or Outer Darkness. Yeah, I believe it's Outer Darkness. And then the third one was Child of God. I've read Child of God, and Child of God was a really interesting book. It was still kind of scatterbrained. Like I think he probably picked up after that one, but yeah, it was still kind of scatterbrained, but it was still a really good novel. So this was a really interesting novel. It just wasn't like top up there like most of the Cormac McCarthy or other parts of Cormac McCarthy's work. But yeah, so this is a really solid novel. So what it follows is Marion Silder. I'm going to say Silder. It's spelled Sylder. Yes, it follows Marion Silder predominantly. Okay, so Marion Silder is a, I guess, alcohol runner during the Prohibition. So this book is set predominantly in early to later 1930s. And with that, we see Marion Silder go through the average things that a whiskey runner would in the 1930s. And we just see his antics as he goes along running whiskey to places during the Prohibition. And so the book starts off, we have Marion in a car, and Marion and a couple of random boys he picked up on the side of the road are going, they're having their time with some women, okay? And then, I mean, that's not really integral to the story. I don't know why that was there. That's just kind of one of those scatterbrained components of the story. But yeah, so with that, then it moves on to Marion, who's driving in a car, and the car breaks down, and this man is over there helping him. And with this, the man pulls up with a jack, and he attempts to assault Marion and steal the car. Well, Marion ends up disarming the man and killing him. He throws him in the back of the trunk and drives off. Now, eventually, down the road, Marion's car breaks down again, and then he doesn't break down. He's going somewhere to drop off the body, and so he's taking him. And he goes to drop off the body, and well, he sees a truck coming by, and while he's dragging off the body to the side to go throw it away, he comes back, and there's a car coming. So what he does is he slides it under the car, and these people come out, they're like, hey, can we help you with it? And he's like, nah, man, I think he says like the radiator or something like that. Yeah, he's like, no, man, we don't need help. And he like talks to the dude under the car and all that. He's like, yeah, I'll be a moment, I'm gonna go with them into town. And then he walks over and he's like, well, I don't know if I'll go into town with y'all. And so they end up leaving, and he ends up getting off scot-free with the body. The body gets thrown into the woods. Now, after that, we go into kind of another scatterbrain portion where this old man in an orchard is shooting bullets into like a water tank. I've read the entire novel, I still don't really know what that was about, but yeah, so I may have just read it poorly, but yeah, that's what happens after that. And then after that, we go to Marion undergoing a whiskey run. So he's doing the run and all that, and he eventually ends up failing. And car breaks, I believe his car crashes at their end, and they're ultimately staged by these people out in the woods. And so after them, they're saved. And then we have this weird like hunting arc. There's like almost 100 pages of Marion and this group of people, like kids, going around hunting. And one thing I forgot to mention is that one of the main kids who's interacting with Marion is a John by the name of John Ratner. Now he's important because the man who Marion killed at the beginning of the book was Ratner's father. And Ratner does not learn this by the end of the novel, but he does know that eventually that his dad has been killed. But back to where we were. After that, you have the whiskey run. The partners, or not the partners, but the pair is saved. And then have the weird little hunting arc. And then we go on to eventually the police end up finding the car that was left behind and realize, hey, there's a bunch of whiskey in here. Someone was running a prohibition, I guess anti-prohibition runs with this whiskey car. So they end up finding him, they end up confiscating the whiskey, and they get to search him. And eventually they find Marion and they arrest him. So Marion is then arrested, and with that, we move on to another man who has been helping Marion throughout his prohibition runs. And his name, he's called Mr. Ownby. And Mr. Ownby is just, he's a kind of cool character. He's kind of ornery, he's an old man, so he's real cool. But yeah, so Ownby has his own gas station. That's kind of where Marion like keeps his car for the alcohol running and all that. And well, the police figured out that Ownby was helping Marion. And so they go after Ombi, and Ombi's chilling at his gas station, and the police come in. There's this cool shootout scene where Ombi's shooting over the counter with his shotgun and all that, and he still got his little dog. That's one of my favorite characters in the entire book, is the little dog. But he still got his little dog with him. And they're shooting and all that, and eventually Ombi's able to sneak out of the back door, and he goes off running. He goes down a trail, follows a railroad, and he's still got his little dog with him all the way. But then keeps going. He ends up hitchhiking with these people going elsewhere. But then eventually, police catch up to him, and they're like, "Hey man, you gotta get in the back of the trunk." And he's like, "I don't leave my dog behind, bro." And with that, he keeps begging the police officer to let his dog behind. He sticks his cane in the door and everything, and it shuts him and breaks it. And he's like, "Bro, let me take my dog along. He's gonna die without, because he's an old dog. He's blind and barely. He's just old. So he's got all the negatives of being an old dog." But yeah. So then after that, he ends up not getting able to take his dog to the police station. So Mr. Ombi ends up going to the police station, and they end up interrogating him, asking him a bunch of questions about himself. He's like, "I know you don't care about this stuff. Just let me tell you what's going on, what's happening." He's like, "You still probably wouldn't believe me if I told you." So they go on with that, and then eventually the story shifts to, I guess, these police officers kind of investigating and learning more about John Ratner's father. And they're just like discussing about whether or not he actually got a metal plate in his head after World War I, because the body they found that was claimed to be him didn't have a plate in his head. But yeah, after that, then we move on to this dude who's up in mining, like this mountain area, and he's trying to find the dog that Mr. Ombi left behind and kill him, because Mr. Ombi was like, "Hey, I know that my dog, he's just an old dog, and there's no point in really taking care of him because they just cost you some money, so I say either go out there and put him down or something like that." So he's out there looking for the dog and just piddling around. And with that, he's seen the dog like running the firelight, and the dog just never stays. And so eventually, one of the police officers, Gifford, who's working with this man, ends up coming up there and like, "Hey man, we're going back down the hill." So they get together and they end up going down the hill. The dude collects all the stuff. He's like leg water or something like that. But he ends up collecting all the stuff, and he goes down the hill. And they go down the hill, and Gifford sees this dog by his police car, and he's like, "Hey, that's a cool dog." He's like sniffing out on that. So he's like entranced by the dog. He's like, "This is a really well trained dog." And then all of a sudden, he hears a shotgun blast and turns and the dog fall over because the leg water absolutely slimed out the poor little dog. Bro, I was so sad because I loved the little dog. He was there the entire time, didn't do anything wrong, but yeah, he ends up getting killed. And then the last part is kind of just John Ratner kind of concluding and all that. So, yeah, I know, as you can tell by the review, it was a very scatterbrained book. I probably wouldn't recommend it to people who are just now getting into Cormac McCarthy's works, because, like I said, it's not his best, but it is a very good foundational point. And I'm ready to read Outer Dark, because I know Outer Dark is probably similar to this as Child of God is, but Child of God has a far more, I guess, cohesive narrative. Like, there are scatterbrained portions, but there's also a larger majority that are actually cohesive and actually follow the plot of the story. So, like I said, I would not recommend this, but I'm ready to see more, because I do love Cormac McCarthy as an author, because, I mean, No Country for Old Men is one of my favorite movies of all time, one of my favorite novels of all time. Blood Meridian is phenomenal, though I would say kind of overrated, but it's still a phenomenal novel, not to undermine it at all, just slightly overrated. And then All the Pretty Horses, highly, I would say underrated, because I've never heard anyone talk about All the Pretty Horses. That's the first book in the Plains trilogy by Cormac McCarthy, which has the book All the Pretty Horses, The Crossing, and The Cities of the Plain. I haven't read The Crossing nor Cities of the Plain yet, but I'm really excited to do so because I love the narrative of All the Pretty Horses. It was phenomenal. It was an odyssey. Really, yes, it was almost equivocal to the Odyssey. It's just so expansive and just yet interconnected. So yeah. Then with that, I would say if I were to rate The Orchard Keeper, I'd probably give it a 5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. Because, I mean, like I said, really solid book, just kind of scatterbrained, and you can always tell it's a foundational point. But, like I said, it's not to undermine Cormac McCarthy's writing, because, I mean, he was a new writer. He had to get his own flow and all that, and it takes a while, because, I mean, I've wrote a little bit myself, and I know that it takes a while to get your flow. But once you get that flow, you can really make some phenomenal stuff, and that's certainly what Cormac McCarthy did, because he ended up creating some of the best books of all time. So, yeah, like I said, good book. I know I've repeated this 3 times, but good book. Would not recommend. But if you do enjoy Cormac McCarthy and you like his writing, and you know you do, like you've read multiple of his better books, then I would suggest reading this, because I mean it's a good thing to see how McCarthy has grown to where he has, because he went from kind of this scatterbrained author to having not very much of a cohesive plot to having phenomenal plots like No Country for Old Men or All the Pretty Horses or Blood Meridian. So yeah. Thank you for watching episode 7 of Shelf Review. I know this one was kind of shorter, but like I said, it's kind of a scatterbrained book, so it's kind of difficult to make a review on it. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I did the best that I could. So yeah, thank you for watching episode 7 of Shelf Review. So yeah.